Hey everybody, I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I am the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we have gathered to celebrate the debut full-length collection by Emily Patterson. This is the birth of Undoing. So very excited to send this lovely book out into the world. And welcome, Emily. I first met Emily and Sheila-Na-Gig Online. I think it was our fall 2021 issue, and she's appeared in Sheila-Na-Gig a number of times since then. And this is how I meet a lot of my Sheila-Na-Gig Editions book authors, is through publishing them online first and loving their work and getting to know them. And so very excited to have the opportunity to publish her debut full-length collection. Very excited. So I'm going to give you a little bit of formal background on Emily with her bio, in case you do not know her work. And Emily Patterson's poetry appears in Christian Century, Swim Every Day, North American Review, Calyx, the Pen Review, Cordella Magazine, Nell, and lots of other places. She's the author of 3 chapbooks, including So Much Tending Remains from Kelsey, The Bend and Braid, also from Kelsey, and Haiku at 5:38 a.m. by Bottle Cap Press. Her work has been recognized and honored by Sundress Publications, Sweet Lit, and Whale Road Review, and her poem Small is the Seed in Tiger magazine was set to music by composer Katerina, I think it's Gimon, and premiered at Carnegie Hall in 2025. So how cool is that? Emily received her BA in English from Ohio Wesleyan University, where she was awarded the Marie Drennan Prize for Poetry, and her MA in Education from the Ohio State University. She's a curriculum developer for Highlights for Children and lives with her family in Columbus, Ohio. So happy to finally have you here for our reading, Emily, and just go ahead and take it away for us.
Thank you so much, Haley. So excited to share some poems from the book and to hear other poems from the new issue. And I just want to say what an honor it's been to have the book published with Sheila-Na-Gig. These poems are very near and dear to my heart. And Haley, as editor, publisher, marketer extraordinaire, it's just been wonderful working with you. So that's just been a delight. But a little bit about the book. It does sort of follow a narrative. My chapbooks that I've published previously really focus on early motherhood and postpartum experience. But with this full-length collection, I really wanted to go back and tell the whole story, which for us was an infertility journey, and kind of bring that chapter together with parenthood as well. So I think for a couple of reasons. One, just personally, kind of feeling like these 2 separate experiences and bringing them together. But also because having gone through the experience of infertility, it can be very isolating and kind of like a silenced sort of grief. So I feel honored to be able to tell my story and to speak to that a little bit. So I will start with the first poem in the collection. This is called Uninhabited. That January, we ate ramen, broth sharp as vinegar, sipped the sizzling disappointment while snow cascaded from the 2nd floor until our city grew unrecognizable. By April, love was a chore in service of something that wouldn't come. Spring, razor-hot July into August, another autumn uninhabited. I dreamt of gardens to rip bare. I dreamt of my childhood home, stripped of its topsoil, 3 acres of mud where we planted grass every year. In November, we drove south to the caverns of Kentucky, where the guide clicked off her lantern, said to wave our hands before our faces, see nothing. Dark as ocean, blank as the black at the center of my body. That small cave I carried everywhere, year into year, home to none. This next one is called Cathedral, and it's a little bit of an ode or a love poem to my infertility support group at the time. Cathedral. Upstairs in the stone church at night, we gather once each month, and not to pray. At the center of the table, tiny cupcakes cluster like an offering. Light pink icing, soft blue sugar, left untouched. Instead, a circle of stories unfolds, each of us reciting her chapter, so often unchanged, month after month after month. We are a chorus of grief in metal folding chairs. We are a collective hush, here for the holiness of being heard, for the echoes bearing into the emptiness like a cathedral of children singing. This next one is called At the Garden Center on Mother's Day. I scan the promising packets, so neatly cataloged in their spinners, savoring the names I don't know that I could ever grow, even in ideal conditions. Thick papaya seeds, black as gems, golden kiwi, dusty blue elderberry. Last year, even the humble cucumber evaded me. Too much light or not enough, its failures left unexplained in the sun-dried dirt. See, this is what I thought it meant to be a woman, one who bears, not one who wants. I was taught that sin was born of the body, hers, eating a scarlet apple, clear juice rivering down her chin, desire itself a betrayal. Now I choose a sleeve of pomegranate seeds. I'll plant a supple forest, every fruit ripening just out of reach. Haley and I had a lot of fun figuring out the cover for this, and I was really excited when we ended up with the pomegranate. And I got sort of nerdy about it because I learned that I knew that the pomegranate could be a symbol of fertility, and of course it's associated with Persephone and spring. But then I found out that it can also be a paradoxical symbol where it embodies both life and death, both fertility and infertility. So it's kind of this symbol of that duality. And I thought that was pretty apt for this collection. So, and then Haley did an amazing job on the cover. Okay, I'm going to read now the title poem. The Birth of Undoing. It is not morning, not winter. I am not 3 centimeters unclosed. I am not in the right position, the midwife says without further instruction. I am not breathing without an oxygen mask, not in the bath, warm waters, a cradle for those within. I am not a voice of stone on stone, not weeping from every opening. You are not emerging quickly enough, the resident explains as the television plays. You are not a heart in distress, you are not breathing immediately. Room full of faces ready to wake your lungs to life. This time, the cry is not mine. You tear the air. I am not only undone, I am yours. And this is the birth of pretending you are mine. As dawn draws over the world like an eye, you open your eyes. You are not here, and then you are. Now I'll read a poem for my own mom, who's hanging out with my daughter as we speak. Mother of mine. Her short hair shimmers across her forehead, pearl white as the scoop of an oyster shell. She cares for you on Mondays and Tuesdays, sipping black coffee that always, always goes cold in its cup. Upstairs, I stare into the screen, listen to the two of you, glee made audible in shrieks and praises, books read in rhyming lines, the chair's gentle creaks. You sleep. When you wake, you might wonder after me, mostly as a body that feeds you. I don't mind. This mother of mine lavishes love on you in waves, clear, cool water cascading over you, over me, channels both known and new. I do sometimes like a long title in a poem, so this is one of those. Walking in the rain, I wonder when postpartum depression becomes just regular depression. I picture us on a map, two dots connected, gliding from block to block. Pencil shading for some sky, square cars tracing wide half circles around us. When you fall asleep, I keep walking, even as a coming storm colors the clouds, even as bulbs of rain pool on the hood of your stroller, slick the pavement. I think of how it's been nearly a year of this gray haze that fades and comes back again. How I once thought I had to learn to shake it, or at least to shoulder it in secret. What I've learned instead is something like how to walk without watching for rain, to let go of the maps we draw for ourselves, to let go of what we think the weather should be. And it's intentional that this next poem comes right after that one. And this is for my husband and partner, Bryce. It's called The Carrier. How sweet to drink September air, to walk in mud and green, you in the carrier on your father's back. Sweet how he gifts you grasses wide as ribbon, weeds that look like wheat. Sweet the way your eyes beam when I turn toward the pair of you. How sweet to carry nothing but cool water for myself, to walk freely and lightly, yet beside you still. Sweet, sweet through forest or field, how he knows and can and does sometimes carry us both. So as the book progresses, it does move, chronologically in narrative form. And as my daughter gets a little bit older, she starts to have a lot to say naturally. So this is one of those poems that has some direct quotes from Saoirse in it. This is called Asteroidea, which is the Latin class name for starfish. You're mine, she says, stringy arms trapping my head to her chest. Mine, with the certainty only a child can summon, bodies stretched over sand-colored sheets like a starfish. When her father says no, she belongs to herself, she strikes with sudden strength, limbs curled and clinging, and it's then that I recognize her claim, the one that, each morning, I don't let myself make. Prying her arms away gently, I steady her water blue eyes with mine, see the depths of us surface, know it's true when I say yes and yes. Let's see here. I actually just want to jump back and then I'll wrap up with a couple poems at the end. But this is a poem that was published in Sheila-Na-Gig. Actually, so was Asteroidea. But this one's for my dad, and it's called Fishing Lessons. On the dock at King Beach, my father shows me how to pierce a night crawler with a delicate hook. how to cast the line out into the pull of the gray, where boats send crimped waves over the surface like an endless greeting. How to wait below the bowl of an Ohio early summer sky for a fish to bite or not. Just as we are about to call it, the line catches, surprising me with its sudden strength, and I clumsily hoist the prize. Bluegill the size of my hand, all flail and flip, small but declared large enough to keep for our purposes, which are how to scrape the scales away, slicing silver skin but not your own fingers, how to smooth back the gills like wiry feathers, and finally, how to heat the thin fillet from translucent to white, pooled in melted butter and salt. How to move through this world, attentive to small tasks that make up a story, a life. How to look closely at the work of your own hands and call it good. How to give back to the water when you should, but otherwise know a keeper when you see it. Then hold on like hell with an unspoken reverence for it all. So I'll wrap up with a couple of the final poems in the collection. Both of these were inspired by scenery in Acadia in Maine, when we thought it was a great idea to take a road trip with a 2-year-old from Ohio to Maine. It was a great idea. It had its challenges, of course, but first one is From Forest to Sea. I point to lichen like lace on the pitch pines, but you don't need me to teach you how to move through this world in search of beauty. You are in search of everything equally. Dull limestone, pine cones plentiful as berries, the spider's delicate legs. On the path from forest to sea, your endless curiosity slows our steps, your pace propelled by wonder, not destination. Near the shoreline, I bend to touch the sand as you do, to trace the letters you know, then let the surf have them back, as if something finished weren't the point of it, but rather something seen and held, however briefly. Here's the last one called Cadence. The second night at Blackwoods, we talk over nearby fires snapping sparks, while our daughter sleeps in the dark pocket of the tent. In the wedge of black between branches, uncountable stars. Beyond the thin strip of forest, a map that stops, goes blue. All day we tried to stay above water. All day I thought of us and not us, the ones who slept deeply in the desert for days, who ran miles through Ohio forests, who stood inside clouds on Crow Patrick and the hollow caves of Kentucky. The pace that pulls at us now washes over the weight of our earlier selves. But here, the night waves offer their refrain. Tomorrow remains uncharted, a chance to stop our plans, to throw clumps of stopping sand, to collect dark mussels at low tide, marvel at bright lichen on the boulders, to inhabit the cadence of this shared, ever-changing song. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. So wonderful to hear you. And this book is just as rich and lovely as it sounds when she's reading it, just as wonderful on the page. They really are poems you can return to again and again, and the whole work is so intentional. So just an honor to be able to publish that. So if you've forgotten, we are celebrating Emily Patterson and the birth of Undoing, her debut full-length collection. So very excited to to have you. Woo-hoo. Emily wrote to me earlier in the week. She said, any special things that I should read? And I told her, you really can't go wrong, right? Anything you want. And of course, you touched on a few of my favorites. And it's been fun to see all the little hearts and clapping and all the animated things going up on the screen. So I think your readers will agree there that really, really fine work. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
We are switching gears now. We are celebrating also the beginning of our 10th year of publication on Sheila-Na-Gig Online, which just blows my mind. It is very exciting. And so we are celebrating contributors from our fall 2025 issue. And it's a fabulous issue. It was curated by upstate New York poet Gary Glauber, who is also a Sheila-Na-Gig Editions book author as well. And he just did a really great job of finding lots of new folks for our pages. And we have lots of returning contributors as well. So welcome new and returning friends. And so we've got 9 folks sharing their work from the journal and possibly elsewhere. And we'll be starting with Eileen Trauth. So take us away, Eileen.
Hi, I'm zooming in from Cincinnati, and I'm going to follow on the lovely family poems that Emily had with 2 of my own. So the first one is the poem that was published in Sheila-Na-Gig, 27 June 2025. How many years have you been married? The old lady asked across the counter, kind eyes twinkling at my celebration cupcakes. 48, 21, and 10. We joined together less than a decade after bloody Stonewall riots said enough. 4 years after psychiatrists admitted we were healthy after all. We sealed our commitment with a piece of paper, first chance we had, proclaimed it mattered that we pledged our troth in public. Then came the day the judges ruled we had a right to walk with pride down any state's aisle. Our anniversaries arrived like drips of life-saving liquid pumped into parched veins. Nurture us, for now at least, until justice, like the provisional IV pole, rolls away. And my second family poem is from my book, Ordinary Time from Kelsey, that was published 2 years ago. Ordinary time. It was a time of nothing special. Angels on high had sung their songs. The wise men had come and gone. Stars and strings of lights were stored along empty Christmas cookie canisters. Fat Tuesday feasting was a distant image conjured in cold night air through white puffs floating above dirty snow. I watched you live this limbo in small steps. I stood in my own private purgatory as you descended into others' careful control. First to go was the cane you held, so stately as you walked in church, even as your stature shrank. A daughter at your elbow, you were never alone. Then you relinquished your walker, and the wide white belt you wore, looped around your shrinking waist, held tight from behind by a constant companion to hold you up in case your legs could not. When Mardi Gras finally arrived, I wheeled you to your last supper at my sister's dining room table. I fed you yogurt and guacamole. Ash Wednesday, I left you in a bed bordered by bars, your new home, said goodbye, a lingering forever kiss before I walked away. Thank you.
I'm Theresa Rogers, and I'm zooming in from Vancouver, Canada. This is my first poem in Sheila-Na-Gig, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to read a poem first, that's in Sheila-Na-Gig, and it's about growing up in New York State. So that's where I started. And it's also going to be in my upcoming book, if I can to say fragments and found things. The poem is called Ode to Tri-State Area, to the Tri-State Area, and the epigraph is from a Kevin Young poem that inspired this poem. And his line is, I want to write a check in the express lane. I want to swing under a branch of that Liberty apple tree, swim through blue-green algae and snap back at turtles. I want to collect bullfrogs to mate in giant dill pickle jars before freeing the tadpoles and the glinting fireflies too. I want to make toys of wooden spools and rubber bands in my stepfather's workshop and play in the deep woods with boys before they learn to lunge all sweat and tongue. I want to hula hoop in the driveway with my best friend and fill up our bike tires and ride to Caldors to pocket gum and lip gloss. I want a mirror vanity for my room, scotch-taped poems on the walls, to climb up the rusted water tower and scan life beyond this town. I want to drink from a fat white coffee mug rich with coffee mate, take the metro line to the city, and learn to drive to Jones Beach in the Chevy and away from the house where I still smell the honeysuckle from my window. And my second poem is called Harold Papa Flash Edgerton, from a photograph at the Whitney Museum 2018. And the photo is atomic bomb exploding. You may be familiar with Edgerton or Edgerton, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, his photography, because he did that slow motion milk drop. Anybody remembers that? We pause at the shot of the slow motion bomb, forming a smoke crater shaped like a child's skull, perched on an elongated iron neck still wired to the ground. Nearby, somebody whispers, should Truman have been tried for war crimes? As small children, we clasped our fingers around bowed heads and folded under our wooden desks, each air raid siren piercing our tiny eardrums. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm next. My name is Patricia Aya Williams, and this is also my first poem in Sheila-Na-Gig, and I'm very pleased to be here. And this poem is based on something that actually happened to me, and it's an Abecedarian. It's called Somebody Asks Me If the Bride Is My Daughter. Somebody asks me if the bride is my daughter, and I say, I wish, because the bride is beautiful, charming, and wouldn't we all want a daughter like that? Her hair, effortless pixie, color of a rare black fawn. Her eyes, a more gregarious shade of hazel than mine. Her arms invite me in for a hug. And what is that scent? Sweet pea, jasmine. I don't know her, my husband's colleague's daughter, but I would like to. It won't happen. My husband and I, merely part of the scenery, the scene, numbered and noted, catered to with only the most exquisite organic hors d'oeuvres and a pamplemousse wedding cake, which I have decided I am quite fond of. We resemble each other, she and I. She could be my daughter, looks more like me than her own mother. Uncanny. I don't have a daughter. I have a daughter and a son, vanished. My husband's children. They want nothing to do with us, X us out of their lives. Who knows why? I was young once, cagey and righteous. Now I seal my secrets in Ziploc bags, transparent, and perishable. Thank you. Thank you. And my next poem I'm going to read just came out in the Thieving Magpie, their current issue online, along with a couple of other poems. And this one, actually, it makes mention of a name. I understand I think a Penelope is after me, and this mentions the name Penelope. So it's called 21 Lines. You have a good life. Your hips wiggle when you dance, and you bought a new purple t-shirt. Purple's your color, isn't it? Someone told you 20 years ago, and you never forgot. Some things stay with you, others wash off like soap. Your shape, a parish hourglass. You can hear mom's voice. Lose 15 pounds. But you never met a cake you didn't like. Well, except for one that smelled like wet dog. Is there a way to make it fun? You have to do what you have to do, unlike a dream. But still, you can have a room full of pretty, paint the walls yellow, collect more lipstick tubes than you've had lovers. You were almost named Penelope. Penelope, but that would have been a different life. You're at a rooftop bar, on a dance floor with friends, your husband, your life, all for you.
I'm Dina. I live in Hadley, Massachusetts, which is the western part of Massachusetts, 2 hours from Boston, 3 hours from New York, and I'm originally from New York City. And it's also my first time in Sheila-Na-Gig, so I'm going to read that poem first, and I'm just delighted to be here. So this is called It Doesn't Matter. It doesn't matter if the Earth's axis is on a tilt, if the universe is expanding or not, if the Red Sox win, or you botch up the piano piece, and you will. It doesn't matter if no one listens to you play, or everyone does and makes raspberries, even if they're pretending to play with the baby who's also making raspberries. It doesn't matter if your words jump off the page, worming into people's hearts, or die in a slow, ignored fade. It doesn't matter if you die. We all will sometime. Or if the dog is pawing at you when you're trying to write a poem, or the cat pounces on the computer, convinced he's the better poet. Isn't randomness the name of the game? Like Jackson Pollock pretending he had a plan for where the paint landed. It doesn't matter if there are no plans or reasons. Truly, there are no reasons for wars, regardless of who says he started it. And it does matter that people die in wars and on the streets. It does matter that an AR-15 can knock off dozens with one trigger pull of an angry teen. It matters when the geraniums die, even if that's part of the natural order of things. It will matter to me when I die, and perhaps to the people who love me, even if in the great scheme of the universe, expanding or not, I'm just a speck on the globe, tilting.
Mhm.
And I was inspired to read this poem when I heard Emily's beautiful poetry about her daughter. Um, this poem is called Seeking the Moon. Nap time My grandson splays on top of me, heart to heart, dreaming of his day, the moon peeking from behind a wooded blockade. Always he searches for moon in the bright sky and in the haze. And yesterday he pointed at a wisp of cloud, insisting it was the real deal, green cheese, a human face, celestial. I wanted to be scientific, astronomical, explain how skittish clouds shift into shapes that may not really be. But he kept pointing his finger at the small spot barely visible through the maple tree until I squatted into the scope of his view. My head tilted, I saw the crescent moon smiling sideways as if to say, I told you so. In the lunar cosmos, we imagined a perch surveying the distant earth washed in splotches of green and blue. No countries or leaders or borders. Imagine. John Lennon had it right. The moon, the cosmos, all of us, unheated by gravity, unfractured by lies, living with stubborn belief in starry light. Thank you. I'll put my links to my books in the chat. Thank you so much.
Hi, I guess I'm up next. My name is Christina. I live in Lawrence, Kansas. Though I am from California, I know some of you here are also from California. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was going to start by thanking Gary for including me. This is my first time in Sheila-Na-Gig. I also wanted to thank Haley for starting Sheila-Na-Gig and for creating this space for so much beautiful and urgent poetry. So both of the poems that I'm going to read are part of this project I've been working on, writing poetry and trying to come to terms with questions of race and racism in America as they have manifested in my very white life. The two poems I'm going to read tonight were inspired by some questions that I was asking myself. How did I learn about Native Americans? What did I learn about Native Americans? And the extent to which this knowledge, which I'm putting in quotes because I think a lot of what I learned as a child was really disinformation, but how did the knowledge that I learned help to form my identity as a white American? That sounds all pretty highfalutin. This poem is really about loss. It's called Playing Indian. Martha and I hunch over, walk slowly, place each heel gently, snap no twig, leave no trace, sneak up on our prey, Mrs. Smith's cat. We were surrounded by ghosts. They passed through us. The air trembled with words we couldn't quite hear or understand, something they wanted to share, something we were dying to know. After lunch, we gather acorns, shell and pound them between two stones, pretend to cook, actually put the raw, bitter meat into our mouths. Ohlone girls learn from older women, mothers, grandmothers, aunts, big sisters, when to harvest acorns, how to dry and winnow, then pound them to flour and leach with hot or cold water, sluicing bitterness out, laughing and talking in the shade of an oak. Our mothers stayed home, talked on the phone, drank coffee and smoked, breathing great plumes into the air. We would spend our childhood trying to decipher their meaning, soon imitate them, dying to be heard. So that representation of Ohlone women's lives is, to the best of my knowledge, factual. But as I said, I think most of my childhood knowledge about Native Americans was distortion. And this next poem really speaks to that. It's kind of a reimagining of how my family received the news of the occupation of Alcatraz Island that started in November 1969 and ended in June 1971. I don't know how many people still remember this, but it was just an incredibly important event for Indigenous sovereignty. It inspired a lot of Indigenous groups, pan-Indian groups, to stake out their own claims for the federal government to honor their treaty obligations. This poem is called Whiteface. In our family, we thought about Indians with a kind of reverence because they had been wise, lived as one with the animals, touched by a great spirit whom our God had eaten. They left a mark on everything, like a very small chip fallen from a piece of obsidian. The chip had long ago been ground to dust, but the arrowhead remained, patiently waiting for a buck to step into the clearing. We were surprised to learn how many survived. We didn't understand what they wanted with that foggy rock. It seemed strange they would be holding guns, making demands, that there would be children. After a while, the news got old, and we let them drift back into the misty glade of our imagination, where a great warrior stands, forever declaiming about honor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Burt. I'm going to read two poems, the first of which is in the latest edition of Sheila-Na-Gig. I've been honored to have been in Sheila-Na-Gig for, I guess, about 6 years or so. I spent a lot of time going through what I call legacy poems, either what I inherited as a child or what I hope to leave to my children. So the book I have coming out from Sheila-Na-Gig is called The Root Endures, which is about those things that transition from childhood into adulthood and parenthood. The first one is called The Difference Between Father and Son, about my 17-year-old son. It appeared your hand exploded from the firecracker, sparks for fingers, flame at the palm, detonating light at the end of the wrist. The dark field lit. Your anonymous friends stood in the flash of momentary wonder, fear on faces that etched a memory against a whitened tent in a dusty desert, and behind you a wall, whitewashed to cover graffiti. Seconds later, that instant glee and grief transformed to relief as your hand appeared healthy and lithe beyond the hem of the cuff, and you were whole again, as much as we are whole to begin with. The paper of the poorly fused dud still stuck to your thumb. I wanted to kiss each fingertip, seared but saved. You stood ready to light another. The second poem is To My Child, which will be in The Root Endures. And it's about how we look up at the stars and hope and pray for things. So it's called To My Child. The white and black lilies are too heavy to loft in the wind. Water's expensive and rare, but we have shared it with the lilies, so they do not become shriveled bloom, waxed petals, pollen-strewn, arid and wilting. It is we who look diminished, our showers spaced and short, our dishes stacked in the sink waiting for the right day to wash. I lose track of how long it has been since I didn't pray for rain. When I taught you about stars, I said there are millions, gazillions, that someday we could reach a count. But what I meant was to look up in awe, amazement. Yet here I am stuck in the dark, looking at the Large Dipper and counting on. Only 3 stars in a handle and 4 to make a rectangular cup. I am praying for rain in a sideways manner, the way a coyote sidles up a street, hoping I can reach the handle and tip it forward, make that ill-formed cup you'd think pounded out in metal, pour whatever it contained. I want to tell you this stupidity of mine, so you will be prepared for the night when you are deprived by death, loss, separation, cancer, even love, and look skyward into the starry sky and forget awe and focus on a single light and wish and wish and wish. It will be okay to do that, to pray, to extend the desperation of your thoughts into space, and attempt to configure a constellation into satisfying our desire, knowing that it will not. It is, after all, the better part of being human, why we look up and out at least half of the time, to search what cannot give, to give to us. Why I sat with my mother, breathless from cancer, asking her a story to tell of her youth that she could not remember, or asked a homeless man how his day was going. I know, as you will, that you cannot tip the handle, the cup will not pour, but you need to know you will try, and you will keep on trying, and learn it is not the failure of praying, but the triumph of continuing to ask. Thank you so much.
I think I'm up next. Jennifer Phillips, I'm on Cape Cod, and my book from last year is Wrestling with the Angel from Whitfenstock. But I'm not reading from that because I've got something a little newer that I like to share. This comes from 11 years I spent living in southern Rhode Island. And the first line is the final line from Seamus Heaney's poem, The Door Was Open and the House Was Dark. It's called Ninigret, which is a good Narragansett tribal name for this beautiful piece of oceanside land that went to another use. On an overgrown airfield in late summer, with a runway of war-ruined gravel, where the shrubs grew in stunted, today's wine marks a distant fishing boat off Ninigret, not a homing bomber, not a limping ace. It's flat enough for purpose, oiled tar for a spillover fleet to roll to a tired standstill on the flats, when Quonset was jammed up. Doleful now, the way parks are that we build to jolly along and cover old fear. I wonder about those Rhode Islanders, swamp Yankees, who never drove as far as Connecticut, 10 miles west, called up to pilot to places they'd never choose to visit, leveling payloads of retribution on ornery sea winds. Sometimes only anger can pry us loose from our borders. Did they feel at home in those sopping Atlantic clouds, trafficking their ocean toward Midwest farms? What of the Sky Raider, overrun into this salt pond skim of ice, stuck like a model in a glue pool? They survived. The Helldiver, fallen short in a sea of fog, drowned with its two-man crew in 46. And the one that crashed and burned in the Great Swamp. In ground mist today, I listen as though for their engines, the melancholy of the place weighing on my shoulders, like the canvas coat I found pinned on a nail in an old barn no one would be coming back for. A scattershot of locusts ticking in the damp grass keeps me company. The sky is pretending quiet, hiding its newer wars elsewhere. This place passes for peaceful, enough to satisfy picnickers and dog walkers. I like it best in rain and fog when the ghosts of hangars bloom in the parking lots, listening for their scraped away stories, telling themselves to the gulls and the geese, to the dotting of dwarfed birches connected underground, where an old war's loss and toxins leach to the sea. Thank you. And this is the one that is about to be published in Sheila-Na-Gig. It's called Still Practicing My Scales, and it comes from a group of poems called 12 Stepping Stones, which are poems about recovery and healing. Still practicing my scales. I am wringing the darkness out of my clothing, out of my bones, even out of my heart, to make room for hope. Skating pond of sky, calm gray wing over me, as if to say, just try, we all fall. Earth does not shame us when we offer our amends, but welcomes them as seeds. Only some will grow. Oh, neighbor, you are more complicated, unpredictable. Earth isn't holding grudges, just consequences for us all. I'm studying how to mix the mortar, hold the trowel, carry the hod, how to lay the wall and tump it true. Meanwhile, it's snowing in May. We left the courtyard of innocence long ago. Now I lay the mouse-trapped victim out gently on the lawn for the winter-thinned crows, aiming for a modicum of balance, and my heart undefended on its half-shell. I'm practicing happiness, learning its key signatures, watching the baffled squirrels test the feeder that their own weight closes, wishing them a few fallen grains for their effort. I'm a bumbler too. I'm sorry. Here's what I scatter for you. Thank you.
My name is David Oliveira, and I thank Haley for her wonderful journal and Gary Glauber for selecting my poem. It's called Tung Vichika Returns to Cambodia, November 1997. And Vic was my husband. This was his first trip back after more than 20 some years away. For Vic, for so long, his homeland existed as memories, stories, photos, a dictionary. This trip was his time to experience again those dear places held in sounds and smells and landscapes in the beloved country longed for with each sun, kept in full breaths, used to pace the lapsing days. The beautiful city was gone, replaced by husks that barely recalled what stood there before. His home, planned by his mother, now someone else's. His old school deserted for years, a school again, though roof and walls in desperate need of repair. His family stupa at the family wat, commandeered for a new family's devotions. Generations of ashes discarded somewhere. And so it went, place after place around town. Yet here he was, unthinkable just days ago, and where others might have felt sadness and dismay, he felt elation, searching for family, friends. Finding one led to one more, who led to one more. Each one found making the party more delicious. Khmer people do not dwell in the past. Their language speaks only in the present tense. Of course, their lives feel each nuance of fits in time like everyone. And like everyone, their broken hearts wear scars from cracks chiseled into them by life's atrocities. But Khmer thinking insists, today is where we have come. What can we do with it? This seemingly involved outlook does not make them better, just less stressed with the world's toxic temper. Like the rest of humankind, they have seen it before, and worse, and recently, and expect it again. As days passed, Vic traveled through boyhood memories, time going too quickly to stop for reflection. Everywhere he went, he found people to talk to in one of three languages. Stories from times past, stories from times present. But most of the stories explained life in his new country and his good luck. When time came to fly back, he stared out the window, only he knows at what. As the plane lifted off and the city collapsed into a smaller self, then all at once vanished from sight. His grip loosened on the emotional chain he held so tight for 25 years, finally breaking into tears over the few things there and countless things not. Thank you. I have a very recent poem called Children at Play. When we were children, I mean the age when playing outside all day was the greatest pleasure. Summer days elapsed long into twilight with all the time needed to occupy our ambitions. Surely you remember. And if there were places unsafe for us to be out, dangerous places where kids could at any moment be plucked away from everything in this world, we knew not of them, nor did we need to know. Our place was one of privilege and very far from our abilities to appreciate. It was also very far from the world we grew into, a space constructed by youths grown tall and strong and clever with math and language. That world has no safety in any of its corners for children, nor for any person's children grow to become. At one time or other, we've all longed for summers when our only task was getting home before dark. Before we realized from just how much we were protected, and before that protection became our responsibility. It's hard not to be disappointed in how life turns out. Hard not to be disappointed with Earth and our dear planet's imperfect circles wobbling on its path without clear hearings. Despite what those with math and language tell us. We watch the sky at dusk, not to see it turn night, but to point home under stars' plenteous light. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And David was selected as our Editor's Choice Prize winner for this fall 2025 issue of Sheila-Na-Gig Online. So great to hear that poem, David. And thank you to all of other invited mic readers from the issue. We always love to have you all here. And thank you once again to Emily. We are celebrating, again, the birth of Undoing by Emily Patterson. So thank you all so much for being here. You can find all of our readings on YouTube, and you can check out our issues and buy our authors' books, please, at Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com. Thank you.